of Scotch.
Scotch, also known as Scotchy, is the tape dispenser that can animate. They also have a Deviantart full of drawings and doodles that they post every now and then. But before we get into that, we first have to acknowledge what they are most famous for, their YouTube animations. And there are quite a bit of them. One of the main characters Scotch animates in their videos is this sensual purple goat. It's become a symbol of Scotch's work, and as silly as it is, I actually kind of like it. One thing that separates it from most anthro characters that people make is its simple design featuring complementary colors and its ability to portray actual characteristics, which are also highlighted by the skill of the animator. Another thing that makes this character less annoying than others is the creator's self-awareness. At least, I think they're self-aware. An example of this self-awareness can be shown by their responses to a flame war they got into, and it is pretty hilarious.
LMAO, I'm choking. Are you for real? And have you come to save the day from my evil sinful wrath, mighty warrior of fucking justice? You come to destroy the nasty mature cartoon. Vanquish the dick goat from the internet. You gonna purify YouTube. Come handcuff me, officer, I've been naughty lol.
Moving on to their animations, the first few animations they created were memes, and they had about the same quality and amount of frames as your average meme. There really isn't that much to say. The parts where there is animation is good and the drawings are passable. That's about it. But then there was a breaking point in Scotch's channel, where one particular video got over 1 million views. In this video, there was significantly more animation, but other than that, I don't know why this video got so popular. Maybe there's a niche audience for people who want to see an anthropomorphic goat stripped down to flamboyantly colored underwear. After this, most of the other animations they had created so far were variants of the same goat dancing around. The animations featured movements that were mostly sexual in nature, and I don't know what else to expect from a goat that can't keep his clothes on for more than 5 seconds. Fortunately, they have also been getting into some more complicated animations as well. Their most recent video I found pretty interesting because the animation has become much more dynamic and they have started to include some visual storytelling. I found that the transition of color schemes was interesting. In the first few seconds, it transitions from black and white to red and yellow, which signifies a drastic change in tone. In later transitions, they also change the colors, except the masks are in a very different set of colors, which creates an interesting visual effect. I certainly enjoy that they are moving on from pretty static and repetitive animation memes to things that actually have a linear set of events. The animations are overall nothing spectacular, but they do have hints of genius sprinkled throughout them. But since I don't know as much about animation as I do about art, I'm going to move on to their Deviantart Gallery, which I personally find much more interesting. If you want to get some cleaner and more refined drawings of some of Scotch's characters, then their DeviantArt is the place to be. In their first few pieces, their art is focused on simplicity and creating solid character designs. In later paintings, they do start to experiment with this shading, and they have a very intriguing way of doing so. In this drawing of their famous goat character, they use hatching. This takes away from any realism, but this is quickly forgiven because of the sketchy, almost dreamlike effect. The bright contrast of the yellow and blue highlights also adds to this atmosphere. Then we have pieces like this. If you can ignore the overall idea of this artwork, then you can see the progression of their style. It has become more rough and has more contrast in the shading. This style does work for pieces like this, which are relatively simple. The only thing that really stands out to me is the soft white highlight that goes along the side of the body. This element doesn't fit well with the rest of the composition, and it just seems like an unnecessary lighting addition. After this, they do begin to add some stylistic differences to their art, especially in their line work. Things quickly became chaotic. The lines were not as crisp as they used to be, and there is significantly more movement and energy in their figures. And that is in no way a bad thing. This rough and turbulent style works very well with their tendency to use monochromatic color schemes. This sketchy, cartoonish look is something I really enjoy and reflects their animations. They have also managed to keep elements of the style I described in their most recent works. While it is is a bit more refined than I think it should be, they still keep this movement very apparent. Now, Scotch's work overall is not amazing at this point, but it works well for what it was intended to be. While I wish there was more abundance of these creations and maybe some more stylistic choices to separate it from other artists who draw this kind of way, there is one major element that I think does separate Scotch from a lot of other artists, and that is the overall narrative that they portray in their collection of artwork. Most other artists tend to focus on OCs, and while Scotch does have a few OCs, what really stands out to me is their themes. Themes of sexuality, depression, and a bit of insanity are portrayed consistently. Some more subtle than others, but you get the idea. I don't see that too often in other artists' works. I mean, there is the insane and depressed art you constantly see, but the difference between those and Scotch's is his are more controlled and less sporadic, while others are just used to vent. This is why I think Scotch's drawings work on a narrative level and why they work so well in their animations. Anyway, my name is Solar Sands, this has been Browsing DeviantArt, and goodbye.